Hi, this is Drew Tignanelli. This is our Financial Pulse for July 2015. This is actually our July quarterly update.
Yeah, exactly.
It's been an interesting quarter because Greece is, by the time people get this video, they will have voted on their referendum as to whether to go with the austerity. And the funny thing is that the government is actually promoting a no vote.
Right.
Now, a lot of people think that they're doing it out of manipulative sense. So in other words, they're going out to the people saying, vote no, vote no, vote no. These are our principles that we ran on and so forth. But they're expecting a yes vote. And so when they get the yes vote, they'll say, okay, you know, we're going to give you what you told me you wanted. But we told you this isn't the best, but you went to yes, and now we're going to go ahead and implement it, so you're going to just have to live with the consequences. And then when it works, because Germany's right as to what they need to do, you know, then they'll look like the heroes to some degree, you know. But Germany also doesn't necessarily want to negotiate with them anymore.
Yeah, they're frustrated. I mean, you know, the people, the citizens of Greece are scared. You know, they don't know what's going on. They're frustrated with things, but everybody else is frustrated with them. There's the culture there. I mean, a lot of great people, but the culture of work and the like has just not helped their economy, and they're so dependent on the tourism as part of their economy.
And it's hard to be a tourist if all you can get is few bucks out of the machine every day.
Yeah, I mean, they're limited right now to $67 a day.
When I travel, I use ATM machines. I don't carry cash or things. I mean, I'll use a credit card, but if I need cash, I use ATM machines. If I was limited, that would make me want to figure out how to get the heck out of there.
Yeah, I mean, as a tourist, did you really want to go over there in all this unrest? I mean, there's just people that are not as comfortable.
But there's a big problem, though, and that is that if Greece doesn't exit, then they probably made concessions for them to stay. And if they make too many concessions for them to stay, then you have other parties rise up in Italy and Spain and other places saying, this is ridiculous. Germany is laying out all the terms for everyone, and they're the only ones benefiting from the Eurozone. We're all getting hurt, which really isn't true. It's the economic policies of these countries are hurting them. Because Germany changed a lot of their social, you know, socialistic policies were modified greatly when East Germany was merged in. They said, you know, look, we can't have minimum wages at $35 an hour. We can't have people not working, you know, because we've got to integrate these East Berliners in. And so now we're going to let market forces do more of this. And when they did, you know, Germany's economy took off. And now they're trying to say the same to Italy and Greece and Spain and France. France, to me, is the ultimate wild card in the Eurozone. To me, when the Eurozone blows up, epicenter is going to be France.
You know, I've been thinking about this in kind of the potentially parallels to what we had in 2007, 2008 timeframe. So if you remember, our government came together and created a marriage between Bear Stearns and J.P. Morgan on St. Patty's Day, You know, and everybody was like, whew, oh, we dodged it. And then it was 6 months later, basically, that Lehman Brothers, and they said, no, we're going to let you go. So in some ways, it's kind of like Germany's been trying to save the pigs, you know, the Portugal, Ireland, Greece, you know, Spain, Italy, all that. And it kind of came along trying to help them out a little bit. And then now it's saying, okay, maybe we're going to let this one go and see what happens. And then they've got to come in and rescue, like our Fed came in and rescued. But when you let that first one go, it's so much easier to let the other ones, you know, happen. So whether it's France or Italy or the other ones that have issues, you know, once you let that, it's a real test of the ECB.
That's true.
You know?
The difference right now is that you've had 4 years that people have assumed that Greece was never going to make it. And so 4 years people have planned for Greece to exit. Many countries many banks and countries and companies have prepared themselves for a Greek exit for 4 years. So I think if they let Greece go, I think that the Eurozone can actually handle it. But your point is well taken, though, is if then Italy becomes a problem, or France or Spain, and they try to do the same thing to them, I don't think it's going to work as well.
Right.
And that's where they come into problems. But there are plenty of issues to be concerned about, but yet I feel that, the markets are going to probably absorb this and try to rebound again and again, and probably hit new highs again.
Yeah, well, I mean, the market is priced in what it thinks is going to happen and what the flows, it's going to be and the outcomes. And the challenge is when those unexpected things, the unintended consequences occur.
Right.
And that's what the market doesn't price in, and that's when we can see some interesting times.
But one of the other factors that I think is something that we have to take note of right now is the rising interest rates. You had interest rates bottom at about 1.40% in 2013, did it again in 2014, and then 2015 came down as if it was going to do it again, and stopped at like 1.7%, and then boom, popped right back up. And so you've had a rising tide of higher lows, as they say, and higher highs. So in other words, the 2-year bond got down to 0.18%, and then it backed up to 0.3, and then back down to 0.2, and then back up to 0.4, and then back down to 0.3, and then back up to point. And now it's actually 0.7, and the lowest it's gotten back down to is about 0.5 something. So you're seeing that. The interest rates the stepping is higher, not lower. Same with the 5-year bond. It's the 10-year hasn't gone all the way back up, because we got up to 3.1% to 3.05 about a year ago or so. And we haven't seen it again since, but we're certainly acting like we want to try to get back there. And
so, in our economy, that's been part of the story, is how strong is our economy? Are we going to have inflation? Obviously, we got through June, the Fed didn't do anything, and that kind of got baked into the cake as time went on. Now everybody's saying September they have to do anything. We've talked about the fact that next year is an election year, and that the Fed is limited.
Never does political, economic moves during a political year.
Yeah. So, but the market's been bouncing around, and so but we haven't seen the strength in the economy. We haven't seen the wage inflation. We haven't seen that, except for what the government is pushing through, and then some of the Walmarts and others are pushing.
But you are starting to see some wage. There was a report today that said that incomes of the bottom 99% are starting to actually rise. You saw home prices getting stronger and home buys continuing to progress. So I agree that the economy is not real strong, but it's certainly not weak in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, but the take-home pay still hasn't really improved because we've had the healthcare costs go up so much. I think that's part of it.
That doesn't help you, and I know that. Healthcare costs are going up.
And that's really been hurting the small businesses, which drives our economy.
But at the same time, you can't keep interest rates at zero.
Right.
0% interest rates are totally illogical, totally manipulated, and you're destroying pension funds, you're destroying savers. This manipulation is going to end ugly ultimately. And I don't know when it's going to, my guess is next year. Next year, to me, is going to be D-Day.
Yeah, it's going to be a critical year.
It's going to be an interesting year. We have to have a financial planning topic, and we're talking estate planning. We're not going to get into all the details of estate planning, but we just want to address a couple things. So, we have Pennsylvania and Maryland that we're mainly concerned with. Maryland finally passed an estate law that said we're going to recouple with the Fed. We're not going to have a Maryland estate tax that if you live in Maryland, you have to plan around it, even if you're not subject to the federal estate tax. But it won't happen until 2019. So dying in Maryland after 2019 is no different than dying in any other state in the country. There were a lot of our clients who moved out of Maryland just because of the Maryland estate tax.
Yeah, for sure.
But now they could actually, if all they were concerned about was the Maryland estate tax, Maryland has opened up the opportunity that you don't have to worry about it as of 2019. Still 3 or 4 years away. Pennsylvania still has an inheritance tax, which is 4.5% on every single dollar passing to your children. That's 4.5% doesn't sound like a lot, but on $1 million estate, that's still $45,000.
Right.
That's a fair hunk of change.
Yeah.
There are ways to work with that,
Right.
But there aren't a lot of ways around it. And so a lot of people think Pennsylvania is a great state to retire to. Yeah, it does give you the pension incomes and IRA withdrawals are tax-free and all that kind of stuff. But there are a lot of little sneaky little taxes, I guess. It's a good way to put it.
All these taxes, the layers.
Still cheaper than Maryland.
Right.
In
most cases, yeah, it is. Yeah, depending on which little hamlet you end up in, too.
But you made a good point coming down here to do this filming today, and that is that a lot of people wrote their estate documents back 10, 15 years ago when you had to put all these trusts in and so forth. Most people, unless their estates are greater than $5, $6, $7 million, don't need all that fancy footwork. And what they're doing, if they don't get their estate documents looked at, they're going to basically condemn their estate to estate maneuvers that don't need to take place. And so everyone should be getting their estate documents looked at by us. You don't need to go to an attorney, but when you come in for your financial reviews or you're talking to Bob Boner up in PA or Roger, you might want to say, could you look at my estate documents and see if my documents need to be updated? Because you go to an attorney, they're going to obviously tell you yes. And you're going to have to pay them an hourly rate. We're just going to look at them and say, hey, these are some of the issues you ought to think about. Maybe you should go talk to an attorney.
Yeah, it's part of what we do, and the client needs to be a little bit proactive on it because we can't read every set of documents every day. When we've got the whole list of clients coming in. But if a client says, I haven't done mine in a while, can you look at these? We're happy to look at them, and give an opinion and say, yeah, we think you should tweak this a little bit.
Absolutely, and there have been, not only for the wills and so forth, but the advance directives and the powers of attorney have all had changes in the last 10 years or so. You definitely need to be bringing those documents. But one last quick point, and that is that a lot of lawyers always say to the client, you should leave your original documents with us. I disagree with that vehemently unless the lawyer is a very good professional associate that you're very close with. You talk to them regularly. I have clients like that. I have clients that are, they're constantly, calling Bob up or Kevin up or somebody, and they're in constant communication with them. But most clients go into an attorney, they get their documents done, they don't see them again. Period. For maybe 5-10 years. And
there's not a relationship.
There's no relationship other than that one time that they went in and got those documents done. And then they want to review them like we're talking about. Now they got to call the attorney up and say, hey, I don't want you to review them. I'm just going to let Bob and Tom and Drew look at them and then tell me whether I need to come back to you. Well, that can be a problem. Or if you want to fix it, you may not like that attorney anymore. You might have had a bad experience with them for something. I think the document should be held with the people that you say, this is who you contact if there's trouble. That should be, and a lot of times clients say that's us. I've told my children something happens, contact the financial counselor. Well, if that's true, we're probably the ones that ought to be holding those documents. If it's your son or daughter, you say, if something happens, they're my personal representative. They're my then it should be them. If you want to just keep it yourself and then tell the key people, this is where everything is at my house, that's fine. Don't keep it in a safe deposit box.
Too hard to get out after you've passed.
It's a chance that it could be a circular thing. You can't get in the safe deposit box until you get
the document that you have the authorization.
You got to get the authorization to get in. So it's it's not a good thing. So anyway, don't keep your original documents with lawyers unless you have a very close relationship. See that lawyer regularly. Give it to the person or the group that you say to your family, this is who you should talk to. Then that's the ones you ought to have it with. If it's your son or daughter, if it's your best friend, if it's your financial advisor, if it's your lawyer, that's the one who you should keep it with.
Yeah, and if you keep it at home in a fireproof safe, make sure they have the combination or the keys to get into that.
Absolutely. Anyway, so that's the Financial Pulse for July 2015. This is Drew Tignanelli saying God bless.